It's always the part where I realize that we probably should have had intro music or something, but we can do chatty banter among our
You and I can
panelists.
vibe, Ryan. It'll be cool.
Yeah,
I'm
I
here
don't.
with you.
Oh, we're recording already too. How's the vibe, Heather? Does it seem natural?
The vibes are awesome. I don't know if you've noticed my cool background, but Akron DSA is about to have a labor solidarity blast, which is something we do every winter starting last winter. I'm very
Love to hear
excited
it.
for it. Warms your heart in a cold season. How are the vibes in California?
They're good. They're good. I'm out here in the high desert. It's a little chilly, but I guess that's relative. But I'm curious, is that the famous Archie that I see in your background, Heather? And can you
That
introduce us to
is,
Archie?
I gotta learn how to do this. There's Archie, Archie the snowman, hero of labor. I don't know if any of y'all have any seasonal mascots involving labor or just want to tell us what chapter you're from, your pronouns, your union, if you've got one. But welcome to the final Solidarity's Brewing Call of the year. We're so happy to have you. It's been a wild year. We're going to catch up on some of that. We will go through a lot of our accomplishments, both as the labor movement as a whole and DSA labor. Starbucks Workers United, of course, has a notable presence on this call. We'll be telling us about what's up with them. I'm going to hand it off to our wonderful host, Ryan Cowles.
That sounds great.
Beardier
Thank you,
DSA
Heather.
labor co-chair.
Yeah, I'm clocking in, but yeah, we'll give it a couple more minutes to see if folks want to still trickle in a little bit late. But one thing to note too is that we're going to record the call. We're actually recording it already. So if you want to turn off your camera or change your display name, just keep that in mind. And yeah, as Heather said, please do introduce yourself in the chat. You can include your name, pronouns, where you're from, and anything else that you would like to share with us. Maybe not anything else, but anything relevant to labor solidarity. Please do share in the chat. And yeah, we'll give it just a couple more minutes and then we can kick things off. And as Heather mentioned, my name is Ryan Coles. I'm one of DSA Labor's, the steering committee's co-chair. I'm based in the high desert out in Southern California, Inland Empire DSA. Use he, him pronouns, and stoked to connect with y'all tonight. And so we are a couple past the hour here. So I think we can get into it. We've got a lot of good stuff to cover. So I think first we're just going to give a brief overview of the agenda. And so we are going to, please hold. We're going to talk about, we're going to do welcome, work through our community agreements. Then we're going to hear from some folks, our fearless Starbucks workers involved with the Solidarity is Brewing campaign. We're going to hear some labor news. We're going to get a little year in review from DSA Labor, also from SPWU. We're going to talk about combating burnout, very important, especially this time of year. And we're going to talk about how to be a lifelong socialist organizer. We'll talk through some next steps. We'll do a grounding exercise, and then we're going to do a show and tell at the end, so we can all see what kind of union drip we're working with. So hang on the call if you want to see that at the end. And just some reminders for the community agreements that the goal of these calls is to support workers. So we're here to support workers, not direct them. These meetings are open to all, so treat this as a public meeting. Discuss things as you would at a public in-person meeting. Assume good faith in each other. Encourage yourself and others to maintain a positive attitude and honor the work of others. Remember to step up and step back. Be mindful of time. We all got a lot of great stuff to share. Let's make sure that we share our part and give others the same opportunity to share theirs. We want to respect people's pronouns, and we will use Stack. So if you're not familiar with Stack, if you have a question or a comment you'd like to speak on the call, just type Stack in the chat that you can find right down here. And then the facilitator or host will call on you and we'll get to it. Now we're going to talk a little bit just about labor corps solidarity and what that means. As I briefly mentioned in the previous slide, keep in mind that nothing should be done for workers without the workers. It's an extremely exciting moment in labor history. We want to support all these organizing efforts in any way we can. It's important that we never plan any kind of solidarity action for workers without coordinating and getting explicit consent from their organizing committee or your point of contact at that workplace. So good reminder, nothing for the workers without the workers. When it comes to solidarity, our role is to be supportive. And I believe up next, we are going to hear some labor news. Riley from Texas DSA, he's with Texas State Teachers Association and Texas DSA Labor, is going to talk to us about what's happening in the world of labor. So Riley, please take it away.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Can y'all hear me good? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Fabulous. Hi, my name is Riley Davis. I am, in fact, a member of the Texas State Teachers Association, which is affiliated with NEA, and I am on the co-planning committee of Texas DSA Labor. Check out our monthly newsletter, the Yolidarity newsletter. It's pretty amazing. Twitter.com/Yolidarity. Okay, so labor news. First things first. Unless you've been living under a rock, and you've probably heard of the ongoing University of California graduate student workers strike and postdoctoral staff strike across the UC system. They are currently on the third week of this strike, and there's 48,000 workers represented in this strike action, which is a ton. From an article I saw, apparently this is like the largest strike of 2022, which is incredible. So like I said, they're in week 3 of the strike, which is amazing. Actually, this today there was some like important updates, like news. Like so, basically the union has been calling on progressive legislators in the California state, Senate and House, whatever, and Gavin Newsom, the governor, to like support their demands to kind of further boost their efforts. They had a march and a rally at the Capitol, and then they had another one at the UC headquarters, the UC Center building in Sacramento today. The marches eventually met up, and then there were 17 workers engaged in a sit-in at the UC Center building. 17 of those 17 workers were from locals at UC Berkeley and at UC Davis. As of right now, I wasn't able to see what the resolution of that was. I wasn't able to tell if any of the workers were arrested or not. So the UC, Board of Regents or whatever are engaging in some pretty nasty divide and conquer tactics. So last week, the union representing about 12,000 postdocs and like research fellows reached a tentative agreement with the higher ups in the system, but the largest bargaining unit, which is the graduate student workers like TAs and tutors and readers, has not reached an agreement yet. And so essentially the system is trying to, kind of break off those postdoctoral workers and fellows researchers from the rest of the union to try to undermine the strike, which is a pretty classic boss tactic, in my opinion. Thus far, they've been unsuccessful at doing that. Those postdocs have stayed out on strike in solidarity with the other workers that are the graduate student workers who are the lowest paid of the bargaining, the people that are engaging in this strike. And, the UC system has pretty much been stalling, has been stonewalling them. I think they've proposed some measly pay increases that don't even keep up with the rate of inflation, let alone meet any of their other demands. So DSA Labor has been, pushing for solidarity actions really hard. I know California DSA chapters across the state have been engaging in solidarity actions with the union. So solidarity to all of them. And yeah, I guess we'll see where this goes. Because wow, there was a funny little joke. Apparently so that most of the graduate student workers are represented by UAW, which is United Auto Workers. But apparently the majority of, or the largest group of UAW members in California are now academic workers. So they joked that it's United Academic Workers in California and not United Auto Workers, but I'm not in that union, so I don't know. But no, yeah, especially so stay tuned. I'd love to hear some details about what happened with that sit-in today. Golly gee, things are escalating. Just something to note, the Guardian US put it out an op-ed today by someone named Nelson Lichtenstein, who works in the UC system, the title of which was that California academic strike is the most important in U.S. higher education history. And essentially, the main point of the article is that in order for the university systems to meet some of the demands of the graduate workers, it's going to have to reverse some serious austerity that's happened in the UC system over the past several decades. So in essence, these striking, really brave workers in the UC system aren't just fighting, for their own better wages and benefits and working conditions, but also to, preserve and protect one of the most, well-regarded public higher education institutions, in the United States. So solidarity. Next slide. Oh no. Okay. Well, y'all can see where we're headed next. So I think that the oh no was well timed. So in other labor news, Congress and the White House vote to impose contract on railroad workers. So those of us who've been joining these calls for the past several months know that railroaders that represented by 12 different unions have been in a 3-year-long battle with the railroad bosses to try to solidify a new contract agreement. They represent around 120,000 freight railroad workers across the United States, which is a massive group of workers. And then, last week on Thursday, I think the Biden administration, or on Monday of last week, the Biden administration announced that they were pushing to impose a contract on the workers that excluded some important demands, most notably being any semblance of paid sick leave. This occurs within the context of the fact that I think over the past 10 years, they've cut a very substantial, I think they've cut it's the number of railroad workers is 2/3 of the size that it was about a decade ago, I think is the figure. So there's been a substantial shrinking of the amount of railroad workers that are in the industry, and that has resulted in some very thin margins in terms of staffing. And so the railroad bosses are essentially cutting costs and then pushing heavier and heavier workloads and worse conditions onto these railroad workers. And it's pushed many of them to, the breaking point. I'm sure many of us working in sectors across the economy can resonate with this, lean staffing kind of business. I work in public education, and our class sizes have gotten bigger and our pay has not been commensurate in that increase. And then there was lots of politicking and movement. And ultimately what ended up happening is, Congress and the White House imposed a contract on these railroad workers, basically barring them from striking in any kind of legal way, shape, or form. It's crap. Several DSA elected officials were on the wrong side of that vote, in my opinion. And I think our NPC National Political Committee would agree. If you'd like to read their statement on the matter, I think they've put out 2. So if you want to search those up, I think DSA Labor has posted those on Twitter and elsewhere. But solidarity with railroad workers, and we should overturn all federal laws that bar workers from engaging in the most militant strike actions possible, so that we can win a more fair and just and equitable economy for all. Next slide. Let me see. So we're gonna hit the highlights, and I'm gonna go real fast because I think I've got about 2 minutes left. These are new unions in 22. Great, amazing stuff. So now we have the Amazon Labor Union, Staten Island, incredible. Chipotle Union, the Chipotle Teamsters, I think we've had on a call before, they're incredible. Apple Retail Union, Pete's Coffee, the entire barista coffee sector of the economy seems to be having been inspired by Starbucks Workers United is, consolidating behind, a union effort to push for better wages and working conditions, et cetera. Medieval Times performers in New Jersey and in California have both formed unions this past year, which is incredible. And I really want to see, some like red flags being waved down on a horse or something. I want a horse on a picket line is what I'm saying. REI workers, Trader Joe's United, La Colombe Workers Union, like all of these victories are amazing. Something to note, two things. One, the Apple Retail Union, my understanding is they're kind of pushing towards a possible like kind of major lawsuit in regards to union busting against Apple for, trying to do what all of these corporations are doing, which is, violate our legal rights to organize so that we can't demand like, reasonable things like the ability to afford a 1-bedroom apartment. So stay tuned for updates on that. I printed out an article from 9 to 5 Max that I think was published about a week ago on the subject. And then lastly, and this one is not secret, but it's not secret. It's kind of like, don't post about it on Twitter is what I'm saying. So I have permission to share. So the Medieval Times Union workers, the New Jersey location and the California location, are asking that if people are able, they can leave a little review on Google Reviews or Yelp saying, hey, you should, telling the bosses, hey, like, stop bargaining in bad faith, come to the bargaining table, support workers. We are asking that people don't post about that on Twitter, but, if you can find one of these 2 locations that has a union and be like 1 star, we support, the Medieval Times Workers Union solidarity, that'd be fabulous. And yeah, no, it's super cool. They won their victory, the California store did about 3 weeks ago, I think. Yeah, okay, I think my time is up. Till we meet again, solidarity, and I guess I'm passing it off to Ryan to see where we're headed next. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Riley. Yeah, lots to consider there. FLRLA, props to UC workers, possible horses on picket lines. We'd love to hear it, except for the RLA piece. And I think now we're going to talk about the past year in DSA labor, and we're going to hear from DSA labor co-chair, who needs no introduction, but we'll get one nonetheless. Heather Hillenbrand from Akron DSA. Heather, talk to us. What has DSA labor been doing for the past 12 months?
Hey, comrades. I think we can agree we've been doing the most. I was talking to some of my co-organizers here about this call, and I was like, I can't even remember what all we did. It's such a blur, but it's been fantastic the whole time. Wouldn't trade a minute. I wouldn't have it any other way than being here with y'all and fighting for the working class every day. We kicked this year off right before we even assembled our new steering committee. The comrades in the South were organizing strike support for UMWA, for striking mine workers who just passed their 600th day on strike, but led by Birmingham DSA, chapters from the South, and some other places too. But I'd like to have a real spotlight here on this moment. Chapters from the South raised $15,000 for their strike fund. Incredible work. And this is mostly virtual organizing too that did this. So great job, way to pull DSA together. One of those things that made it a little bit easier for our steering committee coming in, I think, is to already have everyone in this mindset of we can work together and we can win in places that other people who talk about organizing are basically ignoring. And that's kind of been a theme for a lot of campaigns that we have done any type of interaction or support with on this. People thought labor was down bad, and like it still is, to be honest, but we're fighting our way back up now. And it's what a time to be alive. I know that many of you saw each other and or me and some of the other steering committee at Labor Notes. That was a wonderful highlight for us to all be together then. And I hope to see you again at the next Labor Notes conference. We also have had some things going on behind the scenes, which I still think is the beating heart of the labor movement, but more on the DSA side. We passed some bylaws for the NLC, and in fact renamed ourselves the National Labor Commission as opposed to the clunky long letter name, which shall not be spoken anymore. More exciting than the bylaws in my mind was hiring our first ever labor staffer, Amanda, who you'll get to hear from a little later tonight, but we're incredibly happy to have her here. And having a staff member has really helped us push forward the work better in new ways. and I hope we'll continue to expand our labor staffing in the future because it is such an important component. I think a strength of DSA is having so many rank and filers active in their workplaces, whether it's new organizing or in existing unions. But all of these people are very busy. So having people on staff to support us is super, super appreciated. And we appreciate Amanda and everyone else on DSA staff who has helped us out and taken calls from me that are like, oh my God, I just got done serving lunch to 800 people. And I just realized that we have this crisis happening. We've got to fix it. They've been super patient and good. And I think we've all had those calls where it's like, I don't know what's happening, but it's a big deal. One of the big deals for me personally as a baseball fan was this year, earlier in the year, we got to have a call with our comrade Sean Doolittle, DSA member and Washington National, as well as some bargaining staff for SEIU Local 1 and the nonprofit More Than Baseball. These and other people and organizations were also involved in the now famous effort to unionize the minor leagues. We are super excited to say that DSA was the super fan of this of this, and we're really happy that we had chapters out all over the country supporting this effort, and also just taking the time to form some social bonds with each other, take care of each other, learn to get to know each other outside of the Zoom, and have some fun. We also, on the Zoom, managed to have some excellent formative steps for our logistics program. So this is going to be more public facing for you next year, but I do want you to know that we have what I think was the biggest chapter leader in DSA assemblage ever. We had chapter leaders from all over the country getting together to talk about how we're going to be strike ready for 2023. There's lots of organizing happening in logistics. You don't need me to tell you about it. You will definitely get some of our logistics workers on these calls in the future to tell you more, but I'm super excited to say that DSA Labor is setting ourselves up to support worker wins here. Partially due to the success of earlier fundraising efforts, we launched our Solidarity Fund, which is going to be a great resource both for chapters and for organizing workers. Speaking of organizing workers, while I'm here, I'm all over the place, right? But I don't want to forget EWOC. While we're on here, EWOC, right? Very important partnership that DSA has with UE, which is the Union for Everyone. And we have, through those efforts, supported New Shop organizing in hundreds of different places throughout the country, some of whom are approaching public union elections right now. This also segues into our solidarity with Starbucks Workers United, I think, which is the most public-facing campaign that DSA Labor has ever done. And it has been such a blessing to play the role that I have played in it, a minor support organizer, getting to meet all of you wonderful people, helping. We have 83 chapters who supported a Starbucks store. And we have, it's beautiful to see all over the country. And an additional 99 chapters were on one of these calls at some point or another. So those chapters know who we are, where to go when they're supporting new organizing, whether it's Starbucks Workers United or someone else who's organizing with EWOC or another union. So I'm super, super, super happy that we did all this. Like, it's just been incredible to be a part of it, and I appreciate each and every one of you who have been there along the way. We will be continuing to have monthly calls next year about our solidarity efforts as part of the new DSA Labor Solidarity Corps, and we will have opportunities for everyone to get involved in various levels. But please, 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 always remember, when you have a friend or cousin coming up on the holidays or whoever it is who's like, I think these unions sound good, we've got places to point them. You can send them to EWOC if they want to organize in their own workplace. You can suggest getting a union job with UPS if they're just like sick of what they're doing, they need something else and maybe want some health insurance. You can send them to us if they are interested in taking a strategic job at a workplace for organizing. We would love it. So I'm going to hand it back now before I get too excited and emotional, but I just want to say, like, it has been the best year of my life. It is the most exciting time to be in the labor movement, and I'm so glad that we're all here together. Solidarity forever.
Thank you, Heather. And also, I want to take a quick minute just to give a huge shout out to Heather, Aisha, the SBWU folks, everyone who's been organizing these calls throughout the year. There's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes to make this happen. So let's all drop something nice in the chat about the comrades who organize these calls on the regular, because they've been awesome. It's been really cool to see everyone come together across the country, and really stoked to keep these going into 2023. And before we jump into 2023, we're going to take a look back at 2022 again, this time through the lens of Starbucks Workers United. We're going to hear from Alicia Humphrey, who is with OKC SBWU barista organizer, and Brian Murray, who's with Buffalo SBWU, also barista organizer. So Alicia, do you want to take it away?
Hi, hey. So it's been a little bit of a crazy year for Starbucks Workers United. Brian, do you want to start out? Because last December, Starbucks won its first union election all the way in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean,
Illustrate that.
yeah, last year on the 9th leading up to this, we had 3 stores going into elections and we won 2 out of the 3, which was pretty incredible because we were holding out just to win 1. That was kind of like our target, was if we can even eke by with 1 store, given the massive union busting we faced from over 200 managers being flown into Buffalo. The 1 store we lost, like by 2 votes, they had, a manager for every worker in that store, and then more, and then some. They had multiple managers in the back. I went in the Friday before those workers voted, and manager behind every barista, everyone working in the store, 3 managers in the front, and maybe like 2 or 3 in the back of house. It was incredible. I mean, the level of intimidation, surveillance that they brought down on us, and we still managed to win 2 out of our 3 stores. I'm currently at the Genesee location, which was one of the stores that won that day. So yeah, I mean, and from there, this quickly snowballed into a national campaign. I mean, by, the end of December, we had stores in Boston, Seattle, and Knoxville, Tennessee file for union elections. And then from there, it quickly became, kind of a race to keep up with the amount of leads we were kind of intaking. And I was one of the workers out of Buffalo that helped spearhead basically the national organizing, because we didn't really have a model for what that looks like. And we knew it had to be worker-led if it was going to be successful, taking that from Buffalo, how we'd run our campaign, and successfully spreading it nationwide. So very quickly, like us as barista organizers, like took that over.
Yeah, I think what's made it so successful is it is workers led. Like whenever our store started organizing, we had someone who organized one of the stores in Buffalo. The store got lost, but actually they're going to get a marketing order, so it'll be 3 out of 3 as soon as the NLRB gets that. But yeah, it definitely turned out to be a national campaign, which I know y'all didn't think would be after the store in Mesa won, and after that it seemed to just snowball. In January, we started getting to the rest of New York, and all 3 Ithaca stores filed for the first city in Ithaca. And also in January, the first Buffalo store went on the first Starbucks Workers United strike over COVID safety policies, and they had a big win because Starbucks put the COVID safety policies back in for at least another like 6 months. And at that point, we had 54 stores filed in 19 states. And going into February, we had the Memphis store file, and then the Memphis 7 happened, where all the organizing committee got fired, and they still ended up winning their election. And shortly after they were fired, my store in Oklahoma City was the first store to organize, and and then the other 2 stores in Oklahoma City started organizing right after that. And you want to kick it off in April?
Yeah, so for an April, Starbucks started changing tactics because obviously it wasn't succeeding. We're having massive amounts of leads come in. So they bring back Howard Schultz from retirement, or he appoints himself to come back, and essentially starts going around the country, meeting with baristas, with like whole like districts, regions of Starbucks workers. And they would handpick workers basically to come in and do these like collaboration sessions where they would just basically solicit grievances from workers to try to fix things to stop us from organizing. And in Long Beach, California, a worker actually managed to convince their manager they were anti and get into the meeting with Howard Schultz. And this is one of our ULPs we have filed against Howard Schultz personally, in which they basically asked Howard Schultz, like, you know, why are you union busting? What are you doing? And Howard's response to them was, well, if you hate Starbucks so much, why don't you go work somewhere else? You know, and this kind of incredible moment that really galvanized, I think, support for us nationwide was that, like, this man doesn't care about us at all. Like, we even raise, you know, just minor objections to what he's doing, and he's telling us to basically quit our job. So that was pretty major. You know, we started having, you know, leaks coming from management, like middle management, also store level management, increasing just because of, you know, lack of support from a lot of managers who, you know, didn't expect this from Starbucks as a company. You know, that's something that we've kind of heard a lot. So this kind of escalation of anti-union training, of focusing in and further targeting union supporters nationwide, and running like a scorched earth policy of, like, you know, let's contain the union where it's at. Let's, like, fire whatever we can do. You know, also in April, we had the 2 of the 3 roasteries, which are Howard Schultz's kind of like pet projects in Starbucks. He's like supposed to be like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory of like coffee. 2 out of the 3 of them won their elections that month in April, which was an incredible blow, especially the Seattle one, given that it's like right next to Howard Schultz's, you know, the headquarters. And we also had in Richmond, Virginia, one of our first major rallies, which was called the Unity Fest, in which Bernie Sanders came out and a ton of local labor and union supporters, and basically just had this massive amount of support for organizing in the South, because that's been a major part of our campaign too, is, you know, organizing pretty much everywhere nationwide. I think we're almost at like 40 states now. So, you know,
Yeah, and I'm excited for the rallies coming up on Friday. That'll be super exciting. And then we go into May and we got our first NLRB win, which was a major national lawsuit filed against Starbucks over their handbook discriminations, which basically doesn't allow us to wear union paraphernalia like t-shirts or like hang up union stuff in the back, you know, saying it's on company property or something, defacing company property. And so that was a really big win. And also we hit our 100th store. And so it's crazy to think we were at 100 stores in May, and now we're at over like 260 now. In June, Starbucks closed the first store for unionizing, which was College Ave in Ithaca. I believe it was, they said it was over like the drain or like safety issues, but it's what, you know, workers brought up to Starbucks as saying, like, why can't you fix this? And instead Starbucks decided to punish them for unionizing and, you know, striking over health concerns. But I think it was a big, like, publicizing moment for the campaign, and, you know, saw that Starbucks is not a good company. And in June, there was also labor notes. So over 100 Starbucks workers organized, and a lot of DSA people got to finally like get together and meet in person, finally on Zoom. And we attended a lot of trainings. We had a lot of meetings. We got to see a lot of great like union leaders speak, and also like attend with like Bernie and like Chris Smalls and see them, and just get like a major, you know, reviving moment. And that's when also we launched our no contract, no coffee pledge and our adopt a store pledge, which DSA has been super helpful at like getting out there and, you know, signing up and getting supporters. That way they'll know whenever we have strikes or community step-ins and anything like that. And also in June, Starbucks decided to, not necessarily close stores in Seattle, but create a heritage district where they fired all the current workers and hired them back as like rotating workers amongst a couple of stores. So it made them essentially impossible to unionize. We're still fighting that in court, but it was a new tactic that we hadn't seen before at Starbucks. And at the end of June, the Memphis 7 store voted to win despite all of the 7 firings and them not being able to get their vote counted.
yeah.
And in July, we reached 5,000 members and 200 store wins.
Yeah, July was pretty major with that. You know, going into August, we had the Memphis 7 ruling, finally getting a judge ruling on having them be rehired, which was a major victory. It took another month or two for them to actually get back in the store. You know, August 5th, on my birthday, Sam Amato was fired in one of the Buffalo stores. He was a 12-year partner, and the whole store, in response to his firing, walked out. And that TikTok, the TikTok video we took of that walkout went viral, a couple million views, and was a major energizing point of the campaign that we were still getting this attention on, you know, how blatantly unjust Starbucks's firings were. And also at that same time, we had the incident in Anderson, South Carolina, in which there was the manager accused workers of kidnapping when they did a march on the boss, and filed, you know, basically a report with the local sheriff's office. That was dismissed ultimately, but you know, that was a pretty ridiculous escalation, but on Starbucks's part of just simply reading a pre-written letter and accusing workers of kidnapping.
Yes, and then in September, Michelle Eisen of the Elmwood First unionized Starbucks store testified before Congress on Starbucks union busting. So she got to go all the way to DC and meet with legislators and, you know, see what's been happening and trying to get some action and some NLRB funding because we could really use it. And October, Billy Bragg performed at Elmwood, which I have the biggest FOMO over. I'm so jealous. They got
It was
to see
incredible.
that. I watched it on the TikTok live stream. And even Will got a shout out from Billy Bragg.
Billy was, I mean, one of the nicest guys. We got to spend an hour with him afterwards, and it was just like the most amazing conversation. He's been super supportive, so
Yes.
love to see it. Yeah.
And then also in October, Starbucks started re-bargaining with us. They sent out bargaining dates to all of the stores after we had been demanding a bargain for this time. And after we got our bargaining dates, they promptly walked out of all of our bargaining sessions. And also in October, Will and Jazz, some of the founding, you know, union leaders in Buffalo have gotten pushed out and into November and December.
Yeah, November, we had our largest national coordinated strike called the Red Cup Rebellion, essentially in Starbucks's largest grossing day of profits on Red Cup Day. So 112 stores on strike. My store and 3 other stores in the Buffalo area went on strike that day, along with 112 other ones. That was coordinated. A lot of that support was from DSA chapters on the ground, helping to staff our picket lines, helping to support us and coordinate a lot of these actions, because this was our first mass national action we had. So that was incredible to see, and that support was very much needed to win this fight. And
I will say it was also an international action. We had Starbucks workers in the UK start their union campaign. We had fast food and union workers like in Serbia and Germany. I forget where else in Europe, but also the unionized Starbucks workers in Chile and also in Brazil were also participating in that action. So it was a international day of unity for us.
Yeah, that was incredible. And now we have coming up in December, 10 stores in celebration of December 9th victory. We have 10 store rallies or 10 city rallies going on across the country. With a lot of different figures coming down. In Boston, this is a spoiler, if you're in Boston, it's going to be the Dropkick Murphys, I believe. So look forward to that. Half of Boston's going to be there. So, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be incredible. I'll be in Arlington. And yeah, I don't know what else we got, Alicia, with that.
I was gonna say, so some of the speakers, I know there's gonna be Sarah Nelson in Buffalo, AFL-CIO president in Virginia, where you're going. I've heard a possibility. I don't think this has been confirmed yet, but AOC may or may not be in New York. But you should show up with.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of surprise speakers nationwide.
Yeah, I think there's some
cool.
confirming some last people, so I think there's some big guests. And also we have some new merch in our merch shop for our 1-year anniversary. So if you're tired of the same old logo, get some new merch that Aisha's sister designed. Some of them. I don't know if she designed all of them, but I know some of them.
They're awesome.
Awesome. Yes.
Sarah did a great job.
And that is it.
Cool. Thank you both so much for walking us through that past year. It's wild to think but it's already been 12 months and only 12 months since this all kicked off. But it's been inspiring as hell to watch y'all and stand with y'all in solidarity as you fight this. I mean, who would have thought this was possible even a year ago, right? Seeing what's happened these past 12 months. So major props to everything that y'all are doing. And it's just been super inspiring to work with and learn from y'all. So thank you for being here tonight, and thanks for being here for the duration of these calls too. And as we all probably know to some degree, burnout is something that is very real. It's very present, and there's a lot to go on. You know, I mean, this fight is never ending, and it can be exhausting. And so we need to take care of ourselves too. And so tonight we're going to talk about what burnout is and how we can combat it. And we're going to have Travis, who is a charter member of DSA and a founding member of Knoxville area DSA. He's a full-time organizer for over 20 years with CWA, AFT, and NEA in Texas and Oklahoma, and a founding member of DSA's Buddhist Circle. Talk to us tonight about what burnout is and how we can combat it collectively. So Travis, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks for having me tonight. I think a definition of burnout is easy. It means to be out of steam, lacking in energy or inspiration. And I'm approaching this as something of a wounded healer myself. I have burned out in the labor movement more than once. And I know people are encountering massive workloads, whether they're staff or rank and file activists or leaders. So rather than giving a big theoretical thing, I thought I'd give some tips about how to, practical tips about how to avoid burnout. As far as being labor staff, I think we all know that the labor movement tends to suffer from a cult of overwork, and some unions more than others. And what I've found helpful in dealing with that and figuring out whether I'm burning out and whether I'm being asked to do too much dates back to one of the organizations that preceded DSA, New American Movement, and merged with another organization to become DSA in 1982. We had a tradition of considering prefigurative socialism, the idea that as we're building a new world in the ashes of the old, we need to integrate some of the most important seeds of the world to come in the present one. And I've found it very helpful to ask yourself if there's really any place in your dreams for a workaholic world, and consider that there is a profound contradiction between theoretically exalting the collective as a socialist and expecting your efforts as an individual to be decisive in practice. I think about it. I think about it a lot. And to quote Paul Garver, who's also on this call, be a relay runner, not just a long distance runner. Don't forget the lessons of Organizing 101, the importance of breaking larger tasks down into little pieces and spreading the work out among more people and down to people who perform smaller pieces of the larger task than you do. The amount of work done by your activists versus how much you do yourself is absolutely central to how effective you are as an organizer. Try consciously not to multitask. It doesn't work. Doing two things at once is not scientifically possible, by the way, and it's actually counterproductive in addition to wearing you out. Lessen your dependence on social media. This is a hard one, but instead of obsessively checking your phone or your computer, take a moment now and then to breathe mindfully instead. Perfect the art of being a 1-minute Buddha. Set boundaries and don't be emotionally blackmailed or guilt-tripped into giving more than anyone can reasonably expect. An example from my work as an organizing director for the Austin Teachers Union, public school teachers are routinely told that they don't have the best interest of the children at heart unless they stay throughout yet another 2-hour staff meeting after the final bell. We shouldn't have our unions treating us that way either. And just because you dedicated your life to the revolution doesn't mean that your partner or your children did too. Moreover, obsessive attachment to work turns you into a hack. No one except other work addicts wants to relate to a work addict who can't think or talk about anything but work. And potential members certainly don't. Lately, I've been intrigued by the Ani Institute's idea of seasonality, that organizers might figuratively conceptualize periods that demand intense activity as spring and summer, and fall as a time of reaping the rewards of our work, and winter as a period of relative hibernation when you are trying to rejuvenate yourself and when the thinking that you haven't had time to pursue in the more active periods has a chance to bubble up. I'm a good example. I'm going through the tail end of a winter right now, having had to deal with health issues, including neck surgery in a couple of weeks, a couple of deaths among those closest to me, and a couple of brick walls in work I do for my local chapter. I have moved from juggling a dozen different responsibilities to paying attention to only 3, and new ideas have bubbled up to help me get unstuck as a result. Of course, observing seasonality tends to be easier if you are an unpaid activist or retired like I am, instead of paid staff. But even when I was organizing director for the Austin Teachers Union, the ebb and flow of the school year and seasonally diminished commitments could have offered me more opportunities. Finally, and this is a hard one, make space for the personal. The personal is not always political. A 25-year-old organizer I once worked alongside told me something that shook me to the core. She said, "I don't want to look back when I'm 40 and find that I have nothing." Don't leave a burnt out husk behind. But don't recharge your batteries solely by making and executing a list of fun things to do. Experience quiet reverie, stare into space, relearn how to do nothing. And don't rest just because it will refresh you and make you more effective at work. Rest for its own sake. Rest because you're human and you need it. In closing, old-timers like me have waited for decades to live through and beyond the seemingly unending downturn in the labor movement. In anxious, desperate hope for the upturn and the surge that you young people are now delivering. To paraphrase Alice Walker, you are the people we've been waiting for. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, don't burn yourself out. Trust me, you are more precious than you'll ever know. We can't afford to lose a single one of you, not now and not ever. And as for those of my generation and the generation before me, please remember the words of the great Indian poet, philosopher, and social activist, Rabindranath Tagore. The one who plants trees, knowing that he will never sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Travis. Thank you for being here. I think this sort of stuff can be easy to lose in the struggle that we're in every day, but it is nonetheless important. We want to be able to fight for the long haul, and in order to do so, we got to take care of ourselves and take care of each other. So thank you for helping us do that tonight, Travis. And yeah, everyone drop some kind words in the chat for Travis too, for sharing that with us. Up next, we are going to hear from, I believe we had a brief introduction earlier of Amanda, who's our labor staffer, is going to be doing an interview with Leslie Cunningham, and they will be talking about how to be lifelong socialist organizers. So Amanda, without further ado, please take it away.
Howdy, comrades. I promise I don't stack this call filled with Texans on purpose, but if it just happens to happen that way, I like that for us. That just might be my personal bias. But I wanted to kind of bring Leslie to this space. She's been really important, a friend, mentor, organizing buddy with me for a couple of years. And we had a conversation a few years back in the Union Hall about how to be a socialist organizer your whole life long. So Leslie, I wondered if you could just kind of introduce yourself and tell us what brought you to socialism, or when did you first get involved in much politics?
First of all, I'm not a Texan, don't worry. I've only lived in Texas since 1977, right? I'm from Connecticut, New York, and I went to school in California. I first, well, like a lot of people my age, I first got involved in the civil rights movement when I was in high school in 1961. And, fast forward 1966, California, going to UC Irvine, and sat in support of 3 professors who were losing their jobs. Oh boy, it's like never changes. Anyway, about 1967, I decided I was a socialist. I think what brought me to it, I want to be brief. I'm sorry, I'm kind of distracted because here's the kind of thing happens at this age. My husband, unfortunately, lives in an assisted living center. I can't take care of him anymore. And they just called me and said he tested positive for COVID, and two of their residents are in the hospital. And oh my God. And my daughter's texting me about it. So I'm going to try to be brief. I worked in the civil rights movement in Washington, D.C. with a high school committee we had. And I, at the 1964 Democratic National Convention, I witnessed what went on with Fannie Lou Hamer and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, and got very disillusioned with the Dems. And then I went to work for President Johnson's War on Poverty and got even more disillusioned, and decided to go back to college and became an anti-war activist, joined SDS, of course, Students for Democratic Society, and became a socialist. And then and it was crazy. I dropped out of school, I don't know how many times, because I was spending more time on politics than school. And in 1969, after that rather energetic SDS convention, the last one, I was like, okay, where do I go from here? And we had some of this craziness that you all don't, which I very much appreciate. We were into this don't trust anybody over 30 thing. Well, hell, by 1969, I was in my mid-20s, and 30 didn't look that far away. And I'm thinking, this doesn't make any sense. I didn't like, this is maybe heresy, but I did not like that whole revolutionary youth movement thing, because it was like, it's not just youth, and youth aren't going to make the revolution on their own. Bernadine Dorn, you're old enough to know better. She's even older than I am. So then I read a pamphlet entitled Build a Base in the Working Class. It talked, it had some stuff in it that blew me away. Like, okay, maybe you're gonna, have a partner. Maybe they didn't say partner, was always, a spouse. Or, maybe you're going to have kids. What do you do next? And it said some really crazy things like, hey, you might organize in the PTA. And I'm like, what? The PTA? You've got to be kidding. But you know, that's where it went. What happened though was my husband and I were in an organization that was not, that just couldn't really commit itself, even though it thought it was, at least in our local area, to like getting out of the student mode. Like on a weekday night, I'm pregnant and I'm working, and we have a meeting on a weekday night, and it's 11 o'clock. Come on, people. My baby with me, and I'm pregnant with another one, and blah, blah, blah. And that's just too much. You all have already, I appreciate that you all have already, you're already doing a whole lot better. You've already learned a whole lot of these lessons. These meetings, sometimes I get taken aback that meetings end on time. You know, they're an hour and a half long and they end after an hour and a half, but we've got lots more to talk about. No, not this time. And you're right. That's the right thing to do. And yet I still see younger people getting burnt out. And I know that, I'm sorry, I don't remember your names. I don't remember jack shit anymore. But anyway, one of you Starbucks organizers talked about burnout, and everything Travis said rang true with me. Thank you, Travis. Like I said, I don't want to go on too long, but let me say that what happened with me, and I really regret it. I don't regret raising my family and spending a whole lot of time, but the problem was this: in 1977, when I had a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I was pregnant with another one, my husband and I decided we can't do this anymore. We can't do this anymore. And we talked to our local leadership about it, and we said, well, you know, there's got to be changes made so that people with families and jobs can take a less active or maybe a different type of role. Well, they just weren't ready for it. I mean, we even had these stupid discussions like about, we need more time to clean our house. We've got toddlers crawling around on the floor. And we quit. We left Los Angeles. We were in Los Angeles, and we moved to Texas. And for the better part of 20 years, I did some local stuff, but really not as a socialist at all. Just anti-racist stuff on the job and in the community. A big, long, successful environmental justice campaign led by a retired home ec teacher and a home daycare proprietor. These two wonderful women. Then after I was an empty nester, see, I don't know what this is, but you know, Amanda, at that point I got more involved with the union.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've been a member of
You
the
were
union
a
for over
socialist
25
during
years.
that time, Les, but
Yeah.
it sounds like the things you're working on could have been on any DSA chapter's priority list, from
Well,
racism work to eco-socialism. You're doing trendsetter, early adopter.
and those of you, one thing that worries me is that for a lot of you, it's going to be harder for you to retire than for some of us who are a lot older. And that's one of the reasons why our retiree caucus in our union works very hard. And we've got a committee that's not led by any paid organizers right now, both for active employee issues, especially pay, and for the retirement system.
Absolutely. I did want to ask you another question, since Travis did touch on it. Because Travis was mentioning like the seasons of your life, and I think you've kind of said this a little bit. But you know, how would you describe your relationship to left organizing and how it's changed over the course of your life? It sounds like there were ebbs and flows. Does that sound right to you?
Oh, absolutely. There are seasons in life, and I'm in life right where we are, right where we are in the year right now, in fall, headed toward winter, folks. And you know, it is almost an analogy with the year, in that with the length of the length of the the length of the days nowadays and going off daylight savings time, forget about me driving anywhere after about 5:30. I can't do it anymore. I'm dangerous. And driving into Dallas in general, even in the daytime.
I'm dangerous in Dallas any time of the day or night, to be quite frank. But I appreciate you sharing your perspective with us, Leslie. I think it is helpful to talk to our comrades who have lived a bit more life than us to get this perspective about the ebbs and flows, because, you know, I still, even though someone called me a DSA old head a few months back, and I was like, what is that? I feel like I just got here. But being part of like the 2016, 2017 crew makes me a vet at this point. So, you know.
Can I say one last thing briefly? For any of you, I hope you will be able to retire. Because when I retired, I got for about 10 years, I got a whole new lease on life. I was out there, man, you know, like 2 days after I retired, someone called me and said, "Hey, Les, we know you're available during the week now." And woof, from there.
Yep. I want to live in that socialist future with all y'all, where we can be as much of a hellraiser as Les and Travis in our
during
retirement.
those 2 decades when I was raising my kids and being very minimally involved, I think one of the problems with not being more involved is that my kids, I'm not super happy with their political involvement. They may say, you know, fuck Donald Trump, but there's a lot more to it than that. So thank you very much, Amanda, for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. Always a pleasure to talk with you, Les. We should do it again sometime soon.
You were a wonderful organizer in San Antonio when I lived there.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward, this is going to be a call out to later. I'm looking forward to seeing some of your union swag, your union drip, because I still remember you wore one of those vintage CWA satin jackets to the union hall. And I lost my mind. So
I'll have to wear it sometime this winter.
Yeah, bring it back out. All right. I forget, am I handing it back to Ryan? I think that's who I'm handing it.
Yeah, I can take it for a minute here, but no, thank you, Les. Thank you, Amanda, and yeah, thank you, Travis, all for being here. Yeah, and especially, I mean, not to make this all about me, but you gave me the mic, but it's like I was chasing a toddler before this call. I'm going to be chasing a toddler after this call. So it's refreshing to hear people say, you know, that they have stuck with the movement through families growing and that sort of thing too. And yeah, so I appreciate that. So thank you for sharing that and being here with us tonight. Definitely means a lot. It's a lifelong struggle and we're going to keep fighting. So thanks for inspiring us. Real quick, from the DSA Labor Solidarity Corps side of things, I just do want to give a plug for DSA Labor Solidarity Fund, which Heather talked about a little bit earlier tonight, which is our, we launched this just a couple months ago, and it's a way that every DSA chapter can get support for workers during local strikes, union drives, other forms of working class struggle. If you're not already a donor, smash that link, please become a donor. Also, check out the site. We do have some merch on there, and we will have some more merch coming next year as well. I also want to plug the Labor Corps Solidarity calls. Going into January, we will still be glad to partner with our SGW comrades here. We also will be opening it up to any workers engaged in struggle to share their story with us on those calls. And so I think we're going to drop the link in the chat so we can register for the Labor Corps Solidarity Call on Monday, January 23rd at 8 p.m. East, 5 p.m. West. That's going to be the next one. Should be a lot of fun. So register now, forget about it for these next few weeks, and then get that reminder a couple of days before, and we'll see you there. Of course, join DSA Labor. We are just at the beginning of this. We need to keep this fight going and build on what we've already created. So join us if you haven't already. Get involved. Another link in the chat there too. And with that, we're going to do a grounding exercise. We have two comrades from DSA's Buddhist Circle who have generously offered to lead this exercise. And this is completely optional. So if it's something that you prefer not to partake in, please feel free to hop off the call. Feel free to turn your video off. But we definitely encourage folks to give it a shot too, because this is the sort of stuff that can help us maintain ourselves through the struggle, right? And so with that, I'm going to hand it to Yusen and Tai K. And Ty's from Columbus DSA and the International Committee, and they're going to walk us through a grounding exercise. So thank you for being here, and please take it away.
Thank you, Ryan. Good evening, everyone. Like you were just told, my name is Ty from Columbus, and I'm very excited to be with you all. I'm sorry to say I'm not a union member myself, but my father is a 20-year United States Postal Service veteran and a member of the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. So if you're a member of the logistics industry, trust me when I say I know how difficult it is for you right now, especially in this time of year. And if you're not a member of the logistics industry, remember to put peanut brittle and chocolate bars in your mailbox because your mailman's children really like them. Much better than like the $15 Red Lobster gift cards people like to give. That's like 1.5 bread bowls. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do with that. Anyway, I'm a member of the DSA Buddhist Circle, as is the wonderful esteemed Travis, who you just heard from, as is my comrade Yusen, is also on the call, who's going to be giving some words, time permitting. And essentially, one of our greatest objectives is to help our comrades in the movement, particularly within DSA, to cultivate better life practices, to steel themselves for the lifelong, if not generational, struggle to achieve socialism in our country. As part of that objective, we like to offer things like group meditations, discussions, and grounding exercises to fellow DSA members and fellow travelers within the movement. And we're going to model very briefly kind of what we like to do within our circle and within the groups that we collaborate with. So anyway, we're going to dive right into it. So I'd ask that you begin by taking care of your posture. First thing we got to take care of, right? You're welcome to remain in your chair. Alternatively, you can sit cross-legged on the floor or lie down. If you're sitting, you may hold one hand in the other with both palms facing upward in your lap. I ask that you relax all the muscles in your body except those in your back, which I want you to use to keep your back straight, nice and straight, so as to aid concentration and prevent injury. Listen to your body, do what comfort requires you to do, and when you're ready, I ask that you close your eyes. The next thing I'm going to ask you to prepare is your breathing. I want you to take long, slow, patient breaths, but to breathe naturally. Do not artificially elongate your breathing as your body might want to do. Now, as you breathe, try to focus on the act itself, the act of breathing. You can do this by selecting a target for your concentration. Some people focus on the rising and falling of their abdomen, placing a hand on their abdomen to help them if necessary. Others still will focus on the tip of their nostrils, anchoring their concentration on the sensation of air flowing in and out. And others like to track the progress of the air inside of them, feeling the fresh air cycle in and the stale air cycle out. Try each of these and see what works best for you, or come up with your own method of watching the breath. You may also mentally recite a word or phrase to help maintain concentration. Some Buddhists, for example, recite the word Buddho, meaning enlightened one, splitting the syllables between their in and out breaths. You can do this with any word that is significant to you, such as freedom. Another technique is to recite on the in-breath, breathing in, I know I am breathing in, and on the out-breath, breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Shortening these to breathing in and breathing out after the first few repetitions. One method well suited to beginners is simply counting each breath up to 10 and back down again to 1, then repeating. You can try each of these techniques or none of them, choosing to remain mentally silent as you watch and pay attention to your breathing. Finally, if you find yourself distracted, try to resist the urge to react with frustration. Instead, embrace and label the intruding thought, then gently and slowly return to watching your breath. Remember this, our objective in meditation is to learn how to hold our suffering like a mother holds her child, to say to our suffering, I am here for you and I will take care of you. Because when we know how to suffer, we suffer less. We will have 5 minutes to meditate, beginning and ending with 3 sounds of the bell. At the sound of the bell, please begin. please gently bring yourself back into the convening here. Thank you for your patience and your participation. You can bow to each other in gratitude. You can wave, you can smile, or you can sit perfectly still. I know a lot of people who express their gratitude that way, and it's perfectly fine. I hope you got something out of that. Obviously, there's a limit on what we can achieve with just 5 minutes of sitting meditation in a packed schedule, but I'd like to think even that much is a testament to what Travis so artfully put earlier in this call, which is that sometimes stillness is exactly what the doctor ordered, and sometimes it's harder to achieve than you think. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my comrade Yusin. But yeah, that was us. I was Ty. I'm very grateful to be here. And yeah, any comments, questions can be directed to me in the chat.
Thank you, Ty. I put my email and Ty's email on the chat. If you email either one of us, we could put you on our mailing list. Our work, like Ty said, is mainly support each other. How can we keep the fight going? I am an OG. I am like Travis and Leslie. Maybe not as old. I started in the 70s. I was part of the League of the Revolutionary Struggle. And I burned out. But it took me to the cushion. It took me meditation 35 years ago to keep me going and to revive my energy. And now I feel like I'm more active than ever. I can hang out with all these young folks like you guys and keep it going. And I cheer them on and also teach you guys at the same time. You got to take care of yourself. We try to take care of the world all the time, but it's not a good habit. You got to think of your mind as being part of your overall operation machine, right? You clean your bodies every day, you brush your teeth. Guess what? You have to really take control of your mind or it will take control of you, because our mind's always going, trying to save the world, because there is a lot of work to be done, right? So, and that's why we formed this group. Travis and I, met in the Religious Socialism Convention a couple of years ago. We say, where are all the progressive Buddhists? And here we are. And we meet and we meditate together at least a couple times a month on a regular basis. And we also study together, because I personally, actually also an academic, I'm also a Zoto Zen priest. I don't act like one or look like one, but I find that, I just want to say, is really important to practice taking care of yourself in that deep way. 5 minutes to 10 minutes a day, what you just went through, I don't know what it felt to you. Sometimes it feels like 20, 30 minutes. It could feel a lot, but don't try to force yourself into resolving it or being expert at grounding yourself or de-stressing yourself, right? Because it's a practice. And the more you do it, then the more you're able to easily realize when you're stressed out, realize when you're too tired, when you're too angry or too hungry, you realize you need to slow down. So I just want to say those encouraging words to you all, that it's a practice. Doesn't matter. You don't have to sit an hour every day. You could just sit 5 or 10 minutes. The most important thing is keep going. So I wish you all could go on that journey with us, and feel free to email any one of us. Travis has been meditating for a long time. If you have any need to have individual conversations, and that's why we do our sitting together. We sit together, and then afterwards we talked. We talked about, whether the fights we're doing outside on the street or the fights we're doing emotionally or financially or whatever. We support each other that way. So we're here to support you in however that we can. Do we have time for a few questions?
I think we're a little bit behind time on the agenda. I do want to thank you both so very much for being here. That was fantastic. And I can't speak for others, but myself, I feel so much better just from that 5 minutes long. So thank you both for, walking us through that and letting us know how we can get in touch with the Buddhist Circle. I think for the last 10 minutes or so here, I'm going to hand it back to Amanda. And Amanda is going to lead us through some show and tell. So we're going to talk union drip, union swag. Amanda, take it away.
All righty, comrades. You've been going out to picket lines, you've been supporting workers, perhaps even buying some of our Solidarity Fund merch. So now is the time to do a little humble bragging and show us your swag, show us your union drip. If you have it can be anything from a t-shirt, a sticker, a button, a poster sign, a flyer, something that, maybe you got through your adventures in labor, current, vintage. We're not super picky. All of this explaining is me giving you time to go get your little piece of union swag. And if you want to show us what you got, you can put yourself on Stack and we'll call on some folks. So while I wait for Stack to fill up, I'm going to show y'all my piece of union swag. And I'm really excited that I have some of our comrades from the Texas State Employees Union, because this is a piece of union swag that I'm very proud of because I had a hand in its creation. I worked with one of my coworkers to make these shirts ahead of a COVID vaccine clinic that we put together at our union hall. We got a lot of our retiree union members together to get free shots at the union hall. And so we made a little Rosie the Riveter with masks and a glove and our union logo. And it was something that, it was a very bleak time organizing through the pandemic for workplace safety. And that was kind of the moment that we got to say, we can help our members in other ways and bring together members of our community. And I'm really proud that we put that on. It was certainly a challenge, not our normal thing. We're not medical professionals. We are simply your neighborhood union organizers. But I was really proud of that one. All right, and we got some folks on Stack. I don't know if we're going to be able to get to everybody, so we're going to try to go really fast. First up, we have Paul, then Riley, then Heather, and let's get it moving. Paul, you're up first.
This is the future, not the past. I'm not nostalgic about the past. Too much past, too little future. But next year, we're going to have a lot of emphasis on Amazon. And here's a foretaste.
All right.
We're going to make Amazon pay. Love it. All right, Riley, you're up next.
Hi, I'm going very quick. I'm going to raise up. So I wasn't able to go to labor notes this year, but my comrade Andrew, who is in Alliance AFT in Dallas, got me this labor notes pride shirt that I'm obsessed with. I wore it on the picket line at a Starbucks strike in Dallas this past June, and it was incredible. There's a photo of me wearing it in the Dallas Morning News. It was amazing. We did a whole video segment on it that was put on like Means TV sometime in July. It's incredible. Look us up. But yeah, labor notes pride, Gaber notes, if you will. That's it. Oh, post on Twitter. Use the hashtags. Tag DSA Labor.
Yes, absolutely. If we don't get to you, you extra have to post on social media so we can see your cool union swag. We got Heather, then Rob, then Serena.
Hey, comrades. I went back and forth and decided on my first union shirt that I ever got with the local. It's kind of an open secret now that I'm leaving Big Perp to take a staff job at UE. But I really appreciate all the things my union brothers and sisters have done with me and for me and all together. And it's been a huge part of my development as an organizer. So shout out to Big Perp, always in my heart, but different things on my mind. And I hope that everyone finds ways to stay connected with all the unions that they stay involved with over the time of our journey, seasons, etc.
Love it. All right. Rob, then Serena.
Hey, I've got Union UST from the Steelworkers 13243, which were locked out by ExxonMobil in Beaumont for, I believe, 10 months, and brought Houston DSA's labor working group together to support their picket lines. Then I've also got the Young Active Labor Leaders swag on the hat with the little AFL-CIO on the brim there.
Ooh, good ones. All right, next we have Serena, then Nate, then Leslie. All right, I'm sorry. I literally could not pick one. So I was like kind of like trying to get together like all of like this cool stuff that I got from, oh my God, my background thing. Hold on. Let me unblur my background real quick. You're gonna have to see my messy room. But okay, so I got all of this from, I think pretty much, yeah, these are all from Texas. You got the News Guild from Fort Worth, BLET, Teamsters from Houston, and a lot this like little button here was from the First Union Starbucks in Texas. And I got this like little like cowgirl boot thing from the Teamsters, the Women's Caucus, down here in Houston also. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Some other things that I have are, of course, like Texas State Employees Union. I have like this big old like blue ribbon from San Antonio musicians. But yeah, Texas is a union state, y'all. Yes, I love to hear that. Nate, then Leslie, then Joe.
Hey, we got the DSA Labor Strike Solidarity Fund shirt. Ewok hat that everybody at Labor Notes loves in the background. And then real quick right here, we got a Railroad RWU will strike if provoked shirt. Let's see. The stripper strike. Star Gardens dancers out in LA.
Love
This is
it.
also a strike solidarity shirt where the gals screen printed them and then the funds all went to their solidarity fund.
Excellent. Thank you, Nate. Next up, we got Leslie. That's the jacket I was talking
That's
about.
the jacket. I went in the closet and found it. This is the back of that CWA satin bomber jacket, which is a little big on me, but it's warm. It just doesn't cover my butt though. It's a bomber jacket. So
Yeah,
anyway, and if I'd been thinking better ahead of time, I would have gotten my t-shirt from Sección 307 of Los Mineros in Ciudad Acuña, Mexico, just over the border. But they failed anyway, unfortunately. They were an early attempt at an independent union just across the border 15 years ago. We'll get them. Okay.
We do that international
Thank
labor
y'all.
solidarity. Thanks, Leslie. All right,
Bye.
we got Joe and then Jacob.
Okay, I've got a button that I'm not, for some reason, it's not kicking over into me being full. But anyway, this is my union of most of my life. I've been in many. AFT 2121 at City College San Francisco, one of the few community college unions in the United States that ever went on strike, and successfully. And the other thing I wanted to show was a union coalition that for Campus Equity Week, Campus Equity Now, calling for the attention to the majority of college teachers who are teaching, without job security, living wages, or benefits. So, and which is what I've spent, the section of the labor movement I've spent most of my life in. So thank you. Thank you for this session and for doing this whole thing. This is really great.
Absolutely. All right, we got Jacob and then Travis, and then I think Corey, and I'm going to call it, and that's going to be it for the evening. So Jacob,
I wish I thought I had, because there's a bunch of cool stuff, but I want to show off one of my favorite shirts. Let's talk about your bad boss when we're doing independent labor organizing. Good stuff. And from the Red Cup Rebellion just a few days ago, still had it sitting out. So I was like, hey, that's perfect. So Starbucks solidarity forever. Good stuff.
Absolutely. All right, Travis and then Corey.
Bragging on my wife, Sandy. All of my music room when I do Zoom calls.
Oh, I think we're having some trouble hearing you, comrade.
My wife, Sandy. All of my t-shirt and jewelry.
I think what I heard you say is that your wife knit all of your t-shirts into a quilt. Is that right, Travis?
That's right.
Oh, wow. I'm big jealous. I have a stack of Union t-shirts that's approaching 3 feet tall, sitting in a corner of my room. I need me one of those. Corey, take us home.
I have this little toy horse. It's like a children's toy. It's not Union branded in any way, but it was this gift from the Clark grad workers in the city where I live. And they unionized with the Teamsters this year. They went on indefinite strike, and I was out with them on the picket line for like 50 hours over 5 days. And it was just really great. And we all went out drinking together after they won their contract. And somebody brought out a bag of all these little toy horses that they had from when they were a kid, and everybody got a horse. And so I saved this horse, and it means a lot to me.
I love it. And it's been a really great year with everyone. I'm not sure if I'm closing us out on this call. I might just be the one talking and do it, but it's been an absolute privilege to get to organize with all y'all. I think I can speak for all of us here at DSA Labor when we say I want to be with y'all in this struggle for a good time and a long time, and go get some rest. Do some things that aren't on Zoom, perhaps, for the next few weeks, and come back refreshed and energized and ready to, organize the multiracial working class in the new year.
Let's do it. Thank you, Amanda. And thanks all for being here. Let's take care of ourselves, take care of each other, and fight like hell.
Solidarity. Woo!
Solidarity forever.
Solidarity, comrades.
Get some rest.
Solidarity,
Take care of
y'all.
Solidarity.
yourself.
Take
Thank
care
you
of
so much,
yourselves.
everyone.